right, episode 22 of the Bullpen. I mean, the biggest news from last week is probably Jack Bauer throwing 102 down at Lake Point. He threw 101 six times for Ian Smith. So I saw it all over. It was on the New York Post. John Boy Media had posted it. Like, it was all over my Instagram timeline, TikTok, Twitter. So what do you guys have on that? Like, I know, Tyler, you saw him a couple weeks ago, but if you guys want to jump in and add anything to that, feel free.
It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. I don't really know what else to say other than that. It's nuts, but big kudos to him, and he's getting a ton of love, and deservedly so.
Yeah, for sure. It was crazy stuff, and I know we're going to see him a couple more times. We got a game slotted here to go see him here in the next couple weeks, I think. So I'm curious to see if it's any higher than that by that point. But
hey, I'll tease it. I'll tease it for you, Gav. Next Monday, I believe it will be him versus Essenberg, Lincoln Way East, Lincoln Way West. So we haven't obviously mapped it out, but one of us will more than likely be at that game. But yeah, big matchup next Monday between those two.
What I thought was so cool. First off, the fact that Lincoln Way East went down to Lake Point, took a little spring trip down there, and Lincoln Way West did the same thing. But to get Bauer on a TrackMan unit, doing what he did, I think is a little different than just putting it on a regular stalker gun. The verification of him doing that on a TrackMan, and like you said, to hit 101, I think you said 6 times, it puts him in I think I put this in the rankings story that we released last Friday, but it puts him in rarefied air of just human beings that can throw a baseball over 100 miles an hour from the left side. I mean, there's maybe 20 in the entire world, regardless of age, and he's doing this in high school, early on in the spring. So it's nuts. I know, it hit the airwaves and it went viral and all that stuff, but I know it's doing the same when it comes to pro scouts. And everybody's going to be out to see that because there's no other high school left-handed arm that's throwing 100. And he's, in the zone more than we've ever seen it. So just really, really cool story for Jack. Really happy for him. He didn't throw a lot last year. And I think, I personally wasn't sure what to expect this spring. And to see what he's doing with just the improved strikes and then the velocity just taking off, it is nuts to go with what Tyler was saying. It's absolutely crazy. I would have never imagined, 100, let alone 101.8. So kudos to Jack, and I can't wait to see if he can continue to do it this spring, the rest of this spring.
Yeah, and Drew, there was one thing that I wanted to add. I was trying to find it here because Ben Brewster, yeah, he posted this. You sent this over to us. Kind of speaking to what you were saying about only a handful of guys throwing that velo. Ben Brewster's there are only a handful of lefty starters to ever throw 101 mile an hour plus on record, and that is James Paxton, Tariq Skubal, Cole Reagans, Chris Sale, and Garrett Crochet. And at 102, Randy Johnson is the only lefty who has touched it, and that was believed to be in 2004, and then now Jack Bauer, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think I saw the video overlay. I don't know if it was that tweet, but putting it next to James Paxton and breaking down the actual delivery and how just similar the slot was and the pitch action and everything. Really, really cool stuff. And it just kind of took this 2025 Illinois class to a new level. Already at the top was Appenzeller and Jaden Fauske, and they're both, I think, have a chance to be, first round picks. And now it's just who knows what's going to happen to Bauer? I think everything's on the table. I would find it hard for somebody to not want to pay a lot of money to have that in their organization. So we'll see what happens here. Like I said, kind of moving forward, seeing how he's trending. And we'll see, coming back into Illinois, getting back into this, true spring weather that we've got going. I know this week doesn't look great. We'll see what he can do. And shoot, he's leading his team as well. Lincoln Way East is 7-1 right now. They're in our Power 25. And he's kind of been dominant in all of his starts.
Yeah, and Tyler, I think you've got a nugget here from a former rival that played at a rival D3 school. over in Ohio, and he was making some waves over at Purdue.
Yeah, this pains me just a little bit. No, I'm kidding, but this came across my Twitter feed. Gosh, I think it was Friday or Saturday night. Was just scrolling late and saw the name and kind of took me aback because I don't think I realized he was at Purdue. But Michael Vallone, now he's out of Lake Forest, class of 2020. Yeah, rival in college. Pitched at DePaul University out of high school, which is a D3 school over there in Indiana, and when he was a true freshman, came to our place at Wittenberg, and I'm getting war flashbacks just thinking about it. But threw a no-hitter against us, and at least in my 3 years there, that kid always had our number. Didn't matter if we were playing at their place or ours. He would just always shove against us, and yeah, Friday night against Washington, 5 1/3, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts, retired the final 13 batters he faced, and these next bullet points are actually from a tweet from Purdue Baseball, but became just the second ever Boilermaker since 2005 with 10 strikeouts in an outing. Retired 16 of 18 batters faced, and only 6 of those 18 put the ball in play in fair territory. And then it was his second outing this season where he had 5 hitless innings in relief. So big shout out to him, man. I got to be honest, like seeing that he's at Purdue now, I'm not surprised that he's having success. It was just a guy, when we faced him, man, he just seemed like he always knew how to pitch and get guys out. So big shout out to Michael and those guys over at Lake Forest too. Give them a shout. So.
Yeah, and on the topic of college baseball, kind of looking at some of our, as we typically do, these college baseball recaps, just a couple like nuggets on some teams. And Northern Illinois, they won their series over Ohio 2-1 this weekend. Illinois State won their series over Valpo 2-1 this weekend. Illinois swept Maryland this past weekend, and then UIC won their series 2-1 over Evansville. And Tyler, I know you mentioned that Southern Illinois they played a game yesterday against Missouri State, and they've got a doubleheader today. They lost yesterday, but they're having a pretty good year. I think they've got 21 wins.
Yeah, I think it's 21-8. I saw.
Yeah, so pretty good year for SIU, which is always good to see.
Yeah, and our guys over at D1 Baseball dropped their like mid-season field of 64 projections last week, and they had SIU as a regional team as of right now, or at least that's what they're projecting. So really cool to see for sure.
Yeah, and then kind of flipping the page now to high school stuff. Obviously, this will be out on Wednesday, so you guys will have seen our Power 25 update, but we went through this morning, talked through it, made some changes, but I don't know if there was too much difference. But, I mean, Def, if you want to, or anybody really, get in here and add some nuggets if you want.
No, I can take us through it again. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's really not a ton of changes. I think we added, 4 teams last week to the Power 25. This week I think we only added 2, so I felt like everybody really had good weeks, honestly. Some teams just had huge weeks, and we had to, make the proper adjustments. But right off the start, new number 1 again this week. It is now Lincoln Way West. They are 8-0, had a 4-0 week. They just continue to dominate, it seems. They went, like Drew said, they went down to Lake Point. They played really well down there. We probably buried the lead a little bit, but Connor Essenberg had a huge week down there. It felt like every day Ian Smith was tweeting out him hitting a bomb. So, like we said, there's a big matchup between them and Lincoln Way East next week. But moving on down, Brother Rice jumping 2 spots up to number 5. Maybe the most impressive team last week overall, if you really look at it. Like, they went 3-0, had 2 wins over 2 top 4 teams in Kentucky, including the number 1 team in Kentucky, Trinity. And then they also beat Saint Xavier. Next up, Hampshire jumping 3 spots up to number 10, 11-0. They went 3-0 last week with a win over a top 15 team in Kentucky. And also, like, speaking of big matchups, they play McHenry starting this week. If the weather holds up, they're supposed to have that series this week. Drew, I see you're unmuted. Feel free to hop in.
No, we're going down first off, it's tough looking through these teams. Like when we get on these calls and go through, like you want to look at who they played, and these spring trips make it even tougher because they're going down and playing Kentucky teams. You know, you mentioned Brother Rice took out two of the best teams in Kentucky, but Lincoln Way West is going down to Lake Point. They're playing teams from Ohio, Georgia. We've got a lot of looks at Lincoln Way West in the past. We know what they have. So seeing what they're doing, seeing that they're hitting, seeing that they're getting the pitching that we came to expect. Them at 8-0, like I think they're a pretty good choice there for number one. And it's always hard to move in Edwardsville off of number one when we've seen them play, and like the eye test it's a wow. You look at how deep they are, how many arms they have, the lineup that they throw out there, and the variety of lineups that they can throw out there. So, they're 7-2. They went 1-1 on the week to go to number two. Providence Catholic just won the WJOL tournament. So they're sitting there at number three, but they were our preseason number one. Like, we love that club. And a lot of these teams have like variety of games that they've played, just the sheer amount. You've got Pravi at 5-1. They've played 6 games, and you've got Nazareth at 11-0. They've played 11 games. So then kind of just figuring out how to slot these teams is never easy. But most of the teams, like you said, Tyler, had good weeks. They made it fairly easy for us. Pretty much every team that went undefeated either climbed or stayed at the spot that they were at. Brother Rice, you mentioned them. I'm pretty sure they came back late against Lincoln Way Central. They were down big and ended up walking them off. But they're a team that we've also seen with the eye test. I know Pete saw them when Brady Cunningham was on the mound, and just the amount of talent that they have there. So now they're a top 5 team in the state. But, I'm jumping around a little bit here, Tyler, and you were going through it kind of just the teams that were rising, and Hampshire's, a team that's kind of been on our radar since the offseason. And to see that they've started 11-0 and they're in that daunted Fox Valley Conference, and I think a lot is going to get sorted out in that conference. Teams will beat up on each other. So then, looking at when Hampshire plays McHenry, if they go 1-1 on the week or 2-0 or 0-2, like how much do you really bang a team when they're playing, another really, really good team? So I just think there's a lot of noteworthy stuff throughout this Power 25. I think the other team that made a move, Mascoutah, like we just talked about Edwardsville, they actually knocked off Edwardsville 10-0. And one thing we look at there is like, wow, okay, Mascoutah played one game on the week, and they went 1-0, and they beat our number one team. They were at 14th in the state, Mascoutah was. They're 4-1 now with that 1-0. They climbed 2 spots. But how much weight do you put on that? Because we looked into that game, and Mascoutah throws Austin Muzo, their number one of the best arms in the state, and then they piggybacked him with Darren Klein, their number 2 arm, who's one of the better 2027 arms down there in Southern Illinois. So do you really bang Edwardsville a ton? Who played 2 games on the week. Their other win was a 13-1 win against Sacred Heart Griffin, and then they're facing Mascoutah's best arms. So very, very hard trying to figure out like where exactly to slot these teams. But a great win nonetheless from Mascoutah. Going over there, taking down Edwardsville, like that's a huge win, and we've liked Mascoutah. We got our eyes on them as well. And then the team that I think is one of the more intriguing, just interesting storylines so far early on this spring is DeKalb, sitting at 10-0, and we were looking at their wins. Like they've got good wins on here. I know this past week they only played 2 games and none of them were ranked, but they beat a ranked Morris team 10-5, and they beat McHenry 5-3. We think very highly of McHenry. McHenry only has 1 loss on the season. So DeKalb just continuing to trend up there at number 13, up 3 spots. But Tyler, you keep moving through the list as well. I'm going to just keep kind of anything I see interesting on here, but I know Father McGivney was kind of next up, moving up the list.
Yeah, they also jumped 2 spots up to number 15. They're 9-2. They had a 2-0 week last week, and another team that just seems to be like beating whoever they play convincingly. They played Althoff Catholic last week, won both of those games by a wide margin. O'Fallon, I think another really interesting team. They jump up 4 spots up to number 16. They're 7-1, 2-0 week, and they also beat DeSmet Jesuit over there in Missouri, which is always a really good program out there. So 2-0 week for O'Fallon last week. Andrew jumping 7 spots up to number 17. Another team that seems to just be banging offensively. 10 and
Look
0.
at their
Yeah.
scores. Look, yeah, like breaking down their scores, they beat Mount Carmel 10-2, Richards 5-2, which actually like their offense had an off day that game. Because then they beat Romeoville 10-5 and 13-0, and then they've got wins like 12-0, 17-8, 15-7, 4-1. So that offense, like you're saying, it's blown me away just looking at their game scores.
Yeah, and I know we were talking about, big matchups. Lincoln Way East also plays Andrew this week. So really, like they're not on this rundown, but we're gonna find out a lot about Lincoln Way East this week, playing Andrew, and then also playing Lincoln Way West next week. So just want to tease that matchup. I think they play today. Obviously, this podcast is gonna come out on Wednesday, but they play today, Monday, and then also Wednesday against Andrew if the weather holds up. So we'll see there.
And Andrews at 17 now. They jumped 7 spots. And then behind them, like, I'm looking at two teams that actually are dropping down our list a little bit. And it goes back to somewhat of what we talked about early on. Like, St. Lawrence is down to number 20. They're 5-3. Lamont is 3-2-1, and they're now at 21 on our list. But both of those schools are schools that took spring trips. They're playing teams from down in Florida. They're playing teams that have maybe been outside for 2 months straight, playing 30 games under their belt. So it's always really, really tough looking at them. And they're both two clubs that I really like, especially when you start talking about like 3A and who are the top teams in 3A. Like, I still really like Lawrence. I like Lamont. We've gotten an eye test. We saw Lawrence. We still need to get out and see Lamont. But tough to know what to do with them and their records. Like, they haven't played as many games as some other teams, and they have a few more losses, but still believe in what they have on paper there. And then number 22 is a new face, Fremd. They're 6-0-1, and they had a 2-0 week. And I think what's really caught our eye with them, and there are a lot of teams to dig through that were outside of the Power 25, and it's, hey, who do we choose this week to jump in? We're looking at, like, okay, who has quality wins, right? Like, first off, obviously the record, like what stands out, who's won a ton of games, who's lost hardly any, and then who have they beat? And Fremd has some really, really quality wins on their list here. They're 6-0-1 overall. They're jumping in at 22. They went 2-0-1 on the week, but they beat Matea Valley 11-1, and then the biggest win was over New Trier. They beat New Trier 4-3, who we've seen New Trier, like, we know what they have on their roster. Really like what New Trier has to offer, so like that's a really quality win for me. They tied Crystal Lake Central last week, I believe it was, and Crystal Lake Central won 3A state last year. They tied them 2-2. And that might have been this week as well. And then the week before that, they knocked off number 15 Huntley 5-3, and they beat Bartlett 13-4. So like they've got two Power 25 wins. Honestly, like talking about it, and they've beat Huntley. Like Huntley, we currently have slotted ahead of them. That's a whole nother hard discussion. It's like, well, where the heck do we slot Fremd if we're bringing them in? I think we're gonna make them prove it a little bit. Like, we ranked Huntley preseason because we really felt confident about Huntley, who they had. I know Fremd has knocked them off, but like, let's see what Fremd can continue to do here. And if they continue to play well, they're going to continue to climb up that list, or that board. And DePaul College Prep, Tyler, I don't know if you want to take us through them.
Yeah.
They're the second newcomer this week and the only other newcomer this week. Just two teams jumped in. So.
Yeah, DePaul College Prep hops in at number 24. Another team who's just off to an unreal start, 11-0, 4-0 week last week. They're in that Chicago Catholic League, and they've got talent there, right? They've got a guy like Addison Latko, Owen Rogg, Benny Espinosa, an uncommitted senior who I think everybody here is a big fan of. So they've got
Kurakawa, Quinn
Yep.
Roberts, Alexi Phillips. That's another thing that we did today. Like, we're looking at who they've beat. We're looking at, they're 11-0, so it's like, all right, let's also just make sure we really like their roster, the guys that they have. Do they have enough arms? Who have they played? All that stuff plays into it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. Next, Gavin, I think we're going to hop into some bubble teams here. And listen, I'm going to rattle some teams off, but to the group, if any of you guys have any other teams you really want to give a shout out to, feel free to hop in. But Just going to roll through these here. These are teams that are off to awesome starts to the year and really have our attention through the first few weeks. But first up, Rolling Meadows. They are 10-0-1. Then we got Hersey, 7-0-1. Teutopolis, 8-1. Downers Grove North, 7-1. Mundelein, 7-1-1. Another Fox Valley team coming in here. Burlington Central's 5-0. Plainfield Central, 7-1. Coal City, 10-1. Pleasant Plains, I saw them down at Kickoff Classic. Think they're a really talented team, 7-0. And then Ottawa Marquette, 9-1. So just some teams to note, like I said, that are off to really good starts and teams that really have our attention right now.
And Coach Whalen's got Grays Lake Central at 6-1. They're always a tough squad up there. Sacred Heart Griffin, we got to see them. They're 8-2, and East Peoria 7-2 as well, with some good names on their roster. We could probably go on and on. There's a lot of teams to keep an eye on. There's some undefeated teams down here too, like a Putnam County of the world, Shelbyville, St. Beatty, Mantino. A couple years ago, Mantino had a really, really good club. And they're not scared to play people either. At least they haven't been in the past. Like, I love that York is 6-1. You lose Ryan Sloan, you lose a couple other guys, and it's like, man, all they seem to do is win. So they're a team we're probably gonna need to see. Like, make sure we're not missing the boat on them, and also just continue to see how they progress. But it's always good to have just good teams all throughout the state that we kind of put on our list. Like, hey, we need to cross-check these guys. Another one is, like, you may have mentioned them, but like Mount Zion. They're 4-0, and we talked about like who they have on them. Like, they got Sam Driscoll, they've got Andrew Tay, they've got Fox, another arm, a younger, I think he's 2027, but like the three very quality arms down there at Mount Zion. I expect them to win a ton of games. Normally, UHi's coming in at 4-1. So a lot of good stuff, and like I feel like we've seen a lot of teams and a lot of games already, but like there's so much more to see. There's so much more to unpack as we go.
Yeah, Drew, I love the Putnam County shout out there. You got the Tri-County Conference 8-0 and Ottawa Marquette's 9-1. Like, that could be a pretty good matchup to see when they match up in their conference play, especially with Marquette having Alec Novotny. He's an arm to get out and see uncommitted 2026 there. So no, that's good stuff from the alma mater of the Tri-County Conference.
There you go. And you may have mentioned these, Tyler, so if so, like, but Lyons Township, they're 5-1. I think they're super intriguing, with the arms they have led by Tucker King. Definitely a club to keep an eye on there, but along with like plenty others. I mean, Naperville North starting out the year 4-2. Let's go. Keep it up over there, Huskies. So, yeah, I think that's what I got on this Power 25 update, Gavin.
Yeah, well, let's kind of take a look at some scores and notable like highlights from the past week. I've got it listed Friday to Monday, but I'm going to flip it and start Monday and go down to Friday. So if you guys see any nuggets in here that you want to add into, feel free. So looking at Monday, De La Salle defeated number 11 St. Lawrence. Teutopolis defeated number 25 at the time, Muhammad Seymour, 8-2. Big game for Mick Niebrugge. He's an uncommitted 2025, went 3 for 4, runs scored and a walk. And then JCA beat number 22 at the time, Oswego, 13-8. And JCA scored 6 runs in the 4th inning and 5 runs in the 5th inning. So 3 Power 25 upsets there. So that's good stuff there to see, and good for those teams beating the Power 25 teams there. But looking over at Tuesday, I think probably one of the biggest takeaways from the week was number 14 beating Muscuda beating Edwardsville, who was number 1 at the time, 10-0. And Austin Musso, he threw 4 no-hit innings with 6 strikeouts. Darren Klein threw 2 scoreless innings in relief with 3 Ks. I saw Edwardsville and I saw Musso early on at the Kickoff Classic, and that was like my biggest thing. It's like, man, I'm excited to see him against a team like Edwardsville and see how he competes, and that just makes him that much like much more excited about him like that, just knowing he can go and shove against who we all think a really good team is in Edwardsville. Like, their lineup is just so disciplined, so that was awesome to see from Musso there.
Well, and I think it further adds to the point. I know Drew's touched on this a long time with Austin Musso's. Like, man, if Drew has a short list of guys he's given the ball to win a game tomorrow, Musso's probably right near the top of that list, and kind of showed you why last week, right? We really like that Edwardsville lineup, so to hold them hitless speaks volumes, right? He's obviously very talented. He's going to Arizona State after this year, but yeah, just wanted to add that nugget in there as well.
Yeah, and St. Patrick, they won their game 18-0 on Tuesday. Elias Alvarado struck out 11 in the game. No hits, 1 walk, no runs in 4 innings. Oak Forest defeated Crete Moni 7-0. Andrew Dawson threw 5 innings, struck out 9, walked 3, allowed no hits. And then the defending 2A state champs, St. Anthony, defeated Flora 13-2. And just the big games out of Brock Fearday and Brady Hatton. Fearday went 3 for 3 with a homer, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, and Hatton also hit a homer in the game too.
Could be mistaken. Didn't we? Somebody just spotlighted Brady Hatton as their prospect of the week as well.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I think. Yeah. I think you're right. It might have been me, maybe.
That's what I thought, Gavin. Yeah. So now he's hitting a home run, just kind of making you look good over there. That boy Brady Hatton.
Yep. But Wednesday, looking at Wednesday, Lincoln Way West down there in Georgia, they defeated Coffee 10-9 and Troy out of Ohio 16-2. Def, really off topic kind of, but I guess with Ohio. Did you ever play like Troy, or do you know anything on them?
Yeah.
Are they a pretty good program?
25 minutes up the road from me. My grandma actually lives in Tip City, which is like the neighboring city, and I lived in Troy my freshman year at Edison State. So it's a good little town. They always have a pretty good program. They're Division II, so like for Illinois, they'd be like a 3A school. So
I was kind of hoping you'd have like some nugget, like I went 4 for 5.
Well, I did have my first ever varsity start against Troy.
There you go.
It went well. I just kind of got yanked early, but we don't need to get into that.
All right.
Well, number 24 Andrew at the time defeated number 21 Mount Carmel 10-2, so big win there for Andrew. Quincy Notre Dame defeated Highland out of Missouri 12-0. Colt McGuire is a 20-27 on QND, threw a 5-inning no-hitter with 9 strikeouts and 2 walks. And then Abram Wewell, I think it's how you say the last name. He was a triple shy of the cycle, went 3 for 3, 4 runs scored, and a walk in that game. On Thursday, we're looking at number 8 Naz beating RB Riverside Brookfield 8-0. Mac McGarry threw 6 innings, 12 strikeouts.
He's making our decisions on player of the week and pitcher of the week extremely difficult. But at least looking at the stat line here, 6 innings, 12 Ks. So he's punching out 2 guys an inning and gave up 1 hit against RB, who started the year really strong. So that's a nice little win there for Naz, who just remains undefeated. What do you got here on Burlington Central? Because I had to reach out to Coach Nelson after this win. I saw they went undefeated, or they're still undefeated, and they shut out Hinsdale South, which is actually where I want to say Coach Nelson graduated from Hinsdale South. Because that's kind of, you look at that like game, Burlington Central going to Hinsdale, it doesn't make a ton of sense location-wise, all that stuff, but they must do something there with Hinsdale South. But I texted him because it's like, hey, are you guys for real? So that's another team we got to watch. He really likes his guys on the team there that he was saying. And that win over Hinsdale South kept them undefeated. And you can mention it here, but Chase Perouzik looks like he threw the ball well too, Gavin.
Well, and Burlington Central was really good last year as well. They were right up there fighting for that Fox Valley Conference title with Huntley and McHenry last year. But, Chase Perouzik, I actually saw him throw last year against McHenry, and I really like him. He's going to Wisconsin Parkside after this year, but 5 innings pitched, no runs given up, 2 walks, and 11 strikeouts. So good to see that Chase is still throwing the ball well.
Yeah, and kind of turn it over to some 2A games here. We got Illinois Valley Central beating Pontiac. Pontiac is 3A, but IVC is 2A. They won 2-0. Max Gregory for IVC threw a complete game with 7 strikeouts, 2 hits, and 3 walks. And then Limestone beat Canton 7-0. They've been doing pretty well this year. I mean, I've seen they've picked up some wins, and they've had a good game against Naz when they came down to Limestone. But Alec Williams threw a complete game shutout for them, 12 strikeouts, 5 hits allowed, and 2 walks. And then, like we were talking about earlier, Putnam County's undefeated this year. They beat conference rival Midland 9-3, and Jonathan Stunkel struck out 12 in that game. And kind of turn to the page, or go ahead, Drew. Yeah, go ahead.
Just shout out Evan
Yes.
Daxenbickler for Limestone. Like he was a guy that I know Dane Poe got to see Limestone. He came back saying he showed really well. And he's a younger prospect that we've gotten to see at some tournaments and stuff. So nice to see him impacting that Limestone club who's playing well.
Yeah, and then on Friday here, Glenbard North defeated West Chicago 11-0. Jeremy Cooney threw 4 innings, struck out 9, walked 1, and allowed 1 hit. And then Palatine defeated Ridgewood 10-0. And Toby Peterson threw 4.1 innings, struck out 10, allowed a hit, and walked nobody.
And just looking at that stat line, like we got to go see Toby. Not a single walk. Like he has been a guy in the past that's got really dynamic stuff. We have seen it scattered in the past. We have seen it really, really good. So the fact that he's throwing 4 1/3, not walking a single guy, striking out 10. So like his swing and miss stuff is obviously still there and it's in the zone. And I'm going to shout this out. Like, Gavin, you're looking through daily roundups, getting these stat lines. Like any coaches out here, any parents, any players, like if you want your games in our daily roundup, email us, fill out that Google form that we send out to all the coaches, like put the daily scores in there, put nuggets on there. That's the beauty. Like we want to highlight all the games going on around the state. Like we know not as many newspapers are able to do it like they used to in the past. And I think our whole goal is just putting all of the information out there from everybody around the state. And then like I love that you're calling this out on our podcast, Gavin, where we're trying to touch on a lot of different schools and a lot of different players. And I think you guys do an outstanding job with the daily roundup. And hopefully, our listeners are seeing that every day and are checking out who's doing what. But yeah, we could always take more and more submissions and write-ups and all that stuff. So I just wanted to shout that out, Gavin.
This is going to be our first, I guess, breaking news on the podcast we've ever had. But
Whoa.
Quinn Priester just got traded to the Brewers. So this obviously won't be breaking news on Wednesday, but still breaking news.
So he was, because he was drafted by the Pirates, and he was not on the Pirates anymore. Who was he with?
Red Sox, right?
So the Red Sox traded him to the Brewers.
Looks like they're sending their number 7 prospect, plus a draft pick in comp balance round A, and a player to be named later.
So I'm curious, and you guys would know more than me, but like, are the Brewers in need of a starter? Did they have an injury?
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter when they play the Reds because they're like 8th, 9th, and 10th guys on the depth chart, just absolutely shoved against my Reds this weekend. But yeah, they are a little snake bitten with injuries right now, but unfortunately for them, they don't get to play the Reds all 162, or else they'd be like 150 and
Wow.
12. So, all right,
That's
I'll get off
awesome.
my soapbox.
Quinn's going to be back in the Midwest. Like, he was one of my favorite prospects to ever scout, watch. He's kind of a phenom since he was young. I'll never forget the first time I saw him throw a pen up at the hitter's facility upstairs on the mounds, and he was in 8th grade, maybe a freshman. Todd Coryell was like pointed like, you got to watch this guy. For anybody that knows Coryell here in the Midwest, I know now he's down in Louisville covering that area. I think still with the Giants, but man, Quinn Priester was talented. And just like to watch his progression through high school. He was that multi-sport football quarterback, then a receiver. Also swung it for Cary Grove when he was in high school. Could really, really run. I'm pumped that he's in the NL Central. Maybe catch him at maybe drive up to the Brewers, watch him up there. But I love that tidbit of breaking news there, Gav.
Yeah, and so Hammett, let's kind of look over at or last week's player and pitcher of the week, and then kind of some of the diamond notes from last week, but go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, we'll start with player. Landon Tomei, he earned our player of the week, and it was a tough decision. There was a lot of good players that easily, could have won it as well, but Landon, he went 7 for 9. 2 home runs, 2 triples, 2 doubles, 5 RBIs, 7 runs scored, and 4 stolen bases. But what really kind of sealed it for us was just the storyline behind going down to Limestone, right? Where his father, Jim, who's a pretty good baseball player, he's not bad, played his high school ball, and he hit 2 home runs, right? Not just 1, but 2. And like that in and of itself just is like super cool. And then I saw his mom, Andrea Tome, was tweeting like for like one for each of the grandparents. So if you go that way, it's like, oh my god, like that makes it even cooler. Like it was just awesome. And I heard it was a packed house. Like we had Dane Poe down there catching that one, but like Jim was signing autographs during the game. It was just like an awesome thing. But yeah, Landon, I mean, he also did have, arguably the best stat line of the week as well. But then moving over to the pitcher of the week, Ryan Shaffnett. So he's our first ever back-to-back winner for pitcher of the week, because we didn't start doing pitcher of the week until maybe a couple of years ago, because we wanted to, give more people love instead of just an overarching player. So first ever back-to-back pitcher of the week. And anyone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I was really trying to dig and do my research. I think he's the first ever back-to-back player of the week we've ever had. And I know that sounds crazy because we've had a lot of people win it like numerous times. But from what I can tell, it was like Owen Murphy, he never won it back-to-back. It was like 1 week, then a week off, and then he'd win another one, and then a week off, and then another one. So I think he's the first ever back-to-back in general. But he threw 7 innings, no runs allowed, just 2 hits, walked 1, and struck out 14, and that was against Tremont. So I was doing a little digging on this. That's Tremont's only loss of the year, all right, is that one game. So that also kind of elevates that performance for me, at least personally. I believe they're 8-1, 9-1 on the year now. That was before this weekend, so they might have played a couple more games now. This is Tremont I'm talking about. But on the year, Shaffnett is now 3-0 with 21 innings pitched, 8 hits. He's punched out 37 and walked 3, which is pretty crazy. And then he has a 0.33 ERA. So just keeps getting it done. He's the ace of that staff, and he's easily one of the most dominant arms in the state right now.
I don't know about you guys, but every week we vote on who we think is the player of the week and the submissions and all that. Go through, look at it all. But I thought this week was extremely tough. And first off, I think what made it really tough is all of the submissions that we received. So, like, kudos to the high school coaches out there that are sending in all of the quality performances, and we want them all and more. Send us a boatload of stuff, because if they don't get in the player of the week, they're going to be mentioned in the Diamond Notes, which is one of the coolest things that we do in the spring, I think, just highlighting all of the video game type performances that are coming, across the state, whether it's on the mound or with the bat. But like Landon Tomey stood out to me because he went 7 for 9, but 6 of those hits were extra base hits. 2 home runs, 2 triples, 2 doubles, scored 7 runs. And then, I mean, you mentioned it, the storyline was awesome, but like Ryan Shaffnett, just huge shout out to him. He was a little bit of a climber in our 25 ranking update as well. But Gavin, you said it ever since you saw him last year, like the guy pounds the strike zone. He may be the best strike thrower in all Illinois baseball right now. I see he's got 3 walks and 21 innings pitched, but I bet if you break down his starts and his strike percentage, he's got to be up towards the top of the class. So to throw that many strikes and to be that dominant, to get that many strikeouts, really, really cool to see, because I think that Tremont game, like, that was one of the things we looked at to push him over the edge too, right? It was like, who was he pitching against? We were trying to nitpick it because we're like, it should be hard to win it twice in a row. And Mac McGarry, I know, made it tough. But kudos to Shaffnett and just every performance out there that made our decision really, really hard this week. Because there's a bunch here that I know you guys might get to here, Gavin. Yeah.
I think what's cool too with Shaffnett, I remember you sending me out to go see him his sophomore year. So man, this is 2 years ago now in the spring, and the outing I saw, maybe it was just a bad, unfortunate time, but it was not a very good outing. I don't even know if he made it out of the first inning. Last year, I went and saw him multiple times, and every time I saw him, ton of strikes. And then I think we saw a game, just looking at Game Changer, where he threw like 75% strikes or more, or something. Like, it was like a crazy percentage. And then obviously just continuing to do it this year, like, that's just awesome to see. But yeah, looking over, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, and I think you saw him his sophomore year, and he was kind of a late, not bloomer, but kind of developer into what we thought he was going to be. And I think some of it was due to injury. I
Yeah.
think he had a tough stretch there where he had some things going on, and anybody that's had an injury, like trying to then overcompensate, figure it out, maybe change, differently how you throw it so something doesn't hurt as bad, like can really, really mess you up. So I'm guessing he's feeling really healthy. He's a bigger body and he clearly knows how to sync up and has a really good changeup. Like I love Ryan Schaffner's future. Like that is a guy, like you said, like continues to just get better. He's got present stuff and he's a strike thrower. Like those guys tend to succeed.
And also, just one more nugget to add. He won like a Player of the Week award or something with the like Central Illinois like news, and Jim Matson's like a sports broadcaster in the Peoria area who always does a really good job with that stuff. And he interviewed Ryan, and I was watching it. And just his maturity, he just seems like everyone talked on the team and their coach about how good of a leader he is and just a good person, and how he's like the guy in the dugout that if there's a foul ball and he's not pitching, he's getting it. So just another thing to add on Ryan, which is pretty cool to add through all of this too.
Heck yeah. What do we got on Diamond Notes here? Because I know
Yes.
I touched on it,
Yes.
Gavin. You want to get through some of these guys?
Yeah. So the first thing, I think Mac McGarry was probably a hard one for us, like trying to pick between. Like I know some of us were voting on different arms, and Mac was one of the arms that you guys were kind of looking at as a potential or pitcher of the week. I mean, he threw 5 innings, threw a perfect game, struck out 6 in an 11-0 win over Romeoville. And I don't know if we mentioned it before, but on the season he's thrown 7 innings, struck out 10, and allowed no runs. So good season so far for Mac. I mean, he's just been pretty dominant so far. So you guys have anything you want to add there? Or do you want me to just keep rolling?
That time of last week, and then we touched on earlier, he had an awesome outing against Riverside Brookfield last week as well. So that's probably like 13 innings pitched, and what do we say? Like he's probably at, sorry, this is bad podcasting here. Yeah, so 13 innings pitched now on the season with 22 strikeouts. So pretty ridiculous. So shout out to Mac there.
For me with Mac, like what it comes down to is we talked about it when we rolled out the Power 25 preseason and how Naz had an incredible 2024 class. And a bunch of those guys left, whether it was David Cox, who was one of their main arms, or Fiore, or John Hughes. The list goes on and on. I'm sure I'm missing some guys. But, like, who was going to be that arm that stepped up to be their ace? And I think it's like there's no question about it now. Mac is that guy. He has performed. He's probably going to get the ball against all their, toughest games. And Naz needed that. They needed that guy to step up. So really cool to see there.
Yeah, and then just going down the list, Nick Morsovillo at Sandburg went 7 for 11 with a homer, triple, double, 6 RBI, a walk, and 4 runs scored. Finn Stovall at Harlem went 12 for 22 on the week with 3 homers, a triple, 10 RBI, 12 runs, 3 walks, 2 stolen bases. I think they must have been a team that maybe went down south or something and played a ton of games, because I know there were some teams that had, or it might have been their spring break trip where they were just able to get a ton of games in. Hunter McGrath at Lyle, he went 7 for 10 with a double, 3 runs scored, a walk, and a stolen base. Threw 4 in the third innings, struck out 10, allowed no runs, 3 walks, and 2 hits. Caden Kendall at Andrew, 11 for 20, had 9 extra base hits. 2 of those were homers, 8 RBI, 8 runs, and 2 stolen bases. And then Ben De Matteo at Farragut, is that how you guys say it? Am I saying that right? Out of Chicago. Farragut.
I'm pretty sure that's where Kevin Garnett went.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
I'm going
Good
to
nugget
Google that
there.
one, though. I'll call myself out if not.
He threw a 5-inning no-hitter, struck out 11, and walked 2. Tyler Gluding out of Matea Valley. He's an arm that we saw up to, 93, 94 this preseason, but he's doing it at the plate, too, for Matea. 10 for 18, 5 extra base hits. 2 of those were homers. He walked, had 6 RBIs, 12 runs scored, and 3 stolen bases. Trey Myers out of New Trier went 8 for 13 with 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a triple, a walk, 7 runs scored, 2 stolen bases. And then, Pete, you saw this game last Saturday, but Brady Cunningham out of Brother Rice, if you want to kind of add a little bit more to this with what he did.
Yeah, so he threw a 5-inning no-hitter with 1 walk, and he walked the first batter of the game. And like I mentioned last week, like it had just finished raining, so he was probably just feeling out the mound. So walked the first guy, and then after that it was lights out, punched out 8. And he also doubled and drove in a run at the plate. So did it both sides of the ball. Yeah.
Definitely. Real quick before game coverage, one team we didn't put them on this list here, so I'm going to shout them out. But one team that surprised me maybe a little bit this year, had a really strong start, is Plainfield Central, and Ryan Perry. I saw he had a really good start last week. Complete game, 3 hits, struck out 10 against Riverside Brookfield in a 1-0 win. He's a Frontier Community College commit, so just want to shout that out there quick, Gavin, and kind of give Mr. John Rosner's squad there a little love, former Plainfield Central head coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of wraps up all of that. Do you guys want to kind of get into game coverage now? I know we were out at some games last week. We tried our best with the weather and stuff, but yeah, so on Monday I went to Edwardsville and Sacred Heart Griffin. Down there in Springfield, Edwardsville won 13-1, but I really like that Edwardsville team. They are a tough out at the plate. They have disciplined hitters. Defensively, they're really good. They know how to play the game. Coach Funk does a good job with them. 1 through 9 can really hit. Hunter Ball for Edwardsville really showed well in that game. He was on the mound, attacked in the low 80s, had confidence in that breaking ball as well. Sacred Heart Griffin had some athletes that I liked. Their shortstop Carson Butler, really good game out of him. Really liked the actions during IO. It just looked right. Had a hit down the right field line to end the game, I think in the 6th inning, or 5th inning maybe. Austin Rudder, he was the player of the week 1. Just a really interesting left-handed hitter with quick hands. It's twitchy. He plays second base for them. And then Andy Antonacci started. He was up to 93 with a good breaking ball, but the polish just was not there in this look, but good mover, quick arm, up to 93. It was mostly 90, 92, I think, throughout his 4 innings or 3 innings, whatever he threw. And then Will Pennell, he threw in relief. He's a uncommitted 2026 athletic arm that was up to 84. Really like the way that he moves. It's loose, it's easy, it's a quick arm. So, yeah, I mean, there really wasn't too much from the game. Edwardsville kind of really took away with it, ran away with it. I think they scored 5 or 6 runs in the 2nd or 3rd inning. And just SHG really couldn't keep up. I mean, they're a good team. They're a really good team, but I think that just shows how dominant Edwardsville can be, just with their arms. And I mean, they had, let me double check to be sure, but they had Ethan Stewart come out of the pen. He was a low 80s arm, and then Dax Dunnell come out of the pen as well, who was also a low 80s arm. So they've just got a ton of arms, really good depth at the plate. So really good team. And then, kind of moving on to Thursday. Tyler or Pete, I'll let you guys kind of kick things off with your games first, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can hop in. It was cool to have the 3 of us out for sure Thursday. I felt like we were hitting up really good stuff that day. But for me, I went and saw number 11 St. Lawrence host Marist, and the Vikings won that one 13-3. And just I feel like we got in a call Friday, the 4 of us, and just kind of recapped amongst the group what we had seen Thursday. And I felt like my biggest takeaway with St. Lawrence was just how scrappy their lineup is, up and down, 1 through 9. Just they don't really give away at bats, and each guy is a tough out. Doesn't matter if it's their big bopper and Corey Less, who I'm going to talk about here in a second, or whoever else in that lineup. So just want to touch on that. And they were facing a really good arm in Aiden Flynn, and I felt like they really handled him well throughout his outing. But kicking things off prospect-wise, Corey Less for me. This was my first ever, true look at Corey, and man, was I blown away. He's a left-handed hitter, really strong frame. His first at-bat just jumps on a hanging breaking ball and sends it out for a homer out to right center. And then his third at-bat, to me, showed just immense amount of feel and maturity at the plate. Gets down 0-2. Flynn was really working the outside corner on him with his fastball. He ends up working the count back to even 2-2. Flynn tries to come back and finish him off with a fastball in the outer half, and Corey just shoots the hands and sends a double down the left field line that eventually chased Flynn out of the game. But Just really, really loved what I saw from Corey. Next is Sam Chin. I want to say we've talked quite a bit about Sam. He's been a fan favorite here for a while. Just left-handed arm who really moves clean and easy down the mound. It's how it's supposed to look. And he continues to just get better, it seems. The velo has really ticked up, which is kind of something we've all just been like waiting for, right? Like that was kind of like the next step in his progression, just prospect-wise. And he was 83 to 86, touching 87. All sorts of like arm side run to it. What was cool was his first inning. Didn't throw a single off-speed pitch. Just went right at every single hitter with a fastball. Worked a 1-2-3 inning. Got 2 strikeouts along the way, and was flashing a sweeping curveball for me in warm-ups. Didn't throw it a ton in game, but he really didn't need it that much. So kudos to him. And another thing is like he had to work through like some trouble on the bases, and I think the most encouraging thing when you go out and watch young pitchers is see how they handle that stuff. And for me, Sam was showing a ton of maturity and composure on the mound. If something went wrong behind me defensively, it wasn't hanging my head, woe was me. So kudos to Sam, man. I continue to like it with each watch, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for him. I touched on it, but Aiden Flynn got the ball to start for Marist, and really, really talented left-handed arm in the senior class. Is probably going to garner some pro interest. He's committed to Illinois, but the frame is just it stands out maybe above everything else in his game, and he's got a really good game. Like he so physically imposing, right? Like it's every bit of 6'6", 205. It's the way he gets down the mound. It's like he almost releases a ball like off like the face of the mound. Like it's like the ball comes out like probably 50 feet from the plate or something crazy like that. He gets all sorts of extension. His fastball was 87 to 89, was touching 90 quite a few times in the first inning, and was showing a breaking ball that, when he gets on top of it, could really create some swing and miss, especially early on in his outing. So really continue to like Aiden. I saw him last year, so it was good to get another updated look on him. Thought he threw the ball well. Just didn't really get the results on this day. But next is Connor Marino, leadoff hitter for St. Lawrence. Was playing first base for me, and maybe one of the more athletic first basemen I think you'll find. I feel like with first base, you usually think of like a big, physically imposing kid, and Connor's really not built that way. He's like athletic. Still has probably room to grow in that frame when he goes to the next level. He's committed to Wisconsin Stout. Just really loved his game. Like for a leadoff hitter, he fits the bill, works counts, doesn't give away at bats, and showed really good bat to ball skills for me as well. So really liked his game. Moving over to Marist again, Evan Smith, third baseman for Marist. He's a 2025 going to North Central, and really liked his offensive approach. Was showing me all sorts of maturity. Just like he'd get down 2 strikes and really widen out his stance, and it was just, hey, I just need to make contact here. Like I'm not going for the big swing. I'm maybe not going to get my A swing off here. I'm just trying to meet bat to ball, and he did that a couple times for me. So really liked Evan's game. Steady defender at third base as well. I thought he handled the hot corner well. And then lastly is Tommy Hosty, a 2027 for Marist. Was playing right field for me, batting in the cleanup spot. Yes, cleanup. And really just liked it. I'd never heard of the kid before. Really liked his game offensively. Thought he wore the uniform well as well. So just another guy in that 2027 class, I think just statewide, we're going to have to keep an eye on and hopefully maybe get another look at him this spring. So that's what I got, Gav. I can throw it over to you or Hammett, whoever wants to jump in here. But yeah.
Sure. No, I had 2 things from that, actually. Number one, that's really good to see Chin holding velo like that from the winter. I mean, we saw him up to 87, and that improved his prospect status for us. And obviously, it's one thing to do it in a bullpen in the winter inside versus doing it in game. So it's good to see that he was actually, the same velo there as well.
That's a great call. Great call.
Yeah. And then Corey Less, I mean, he just hits, man. Like left on left, it doesn't matter. He took one of the most impressive swings that I've ever seen last year. Jack Bauer, when he was a little more wild, we'll call it effectively wild at the time, ripped off a really good slider, like 2,800 RPM, stayed right on it, shot it over the shortstop, like super impressive swing. And the fact that he's doing it again against another premium arm, another premium left-handed arm at that, just speaks volumes to me of the hit tool that he has. And he moves really, really well for that size, can play center field. He's a really interesting prospect for me. But I'll move on to my game. I saw Sycamore and Yorkville over at Yorkville. Yorkville's field, brand new turf, looks unbelievable. I really love the setup there. But Yorkville scored 7 unanswered runs to come back and win 7-5 in that game. So I showed up about an hour, 15 minutes early. And this is why we do it, right? Like, I get there and they're doing outfield drills. They're just hitting the ball around, and there's this kid, number 12. I don't have a roster yet. I'm just watching this kid, number 12, making all these diving catches. I'm like, wow, that center fielder is pretty good. I'm going to have to watch him. Jalen Valise, he's their shortstop. He doesn't even play outfield. So, like, I was just like, oh, man, that's why we show up early. Like, we get to see stuff like that. So, I mean, Jalen Valise, really athletic. Like, love the way he moves around shortstop. Clearly athletic, the way he was moving around the outfield. Like, he can move there at the next level if he needs to. But he's a game changer on the bases. Like, we've seen it a ton of times. Like, he'll get on and then it's an automatic double because he'll just steal second and then he might even steal third. But he took some good at bats. He went up and got a fastball at the top of the zone, drove it the other way for a double. So there's a lot to like with him, and just on both sides of the ball. Uncommitted junior. But speaking of uncommitted juniors, Justin Geese, he was their second baseman for Yorkville. Kind of a compact, stronger frame. I'm really in on both sides of the ball. Like, compact, flat, left-handed swing with some strength. Like the way he handled his at-bats. Didn't, like, expand the zone too much. And I really like the actions at second base as well. Like, quick hands. He should be able to stick on the infield moving forward. But staying on the infield now, they had a really good infield with Jalen, Justin, and now Bodie Harrison over at third base. He's a physical senior, uncommitted as far as I know. Like, every bit of 6'4", 6'3", 200 pounds at least, really looks the part in the uniform. And he moved around the bag well for his size. Like, I was impressed with it. Soft hands. He should be able to stick on a corner spot at the next level. And really easy right-handed swing with some strength. So he stood out. And then Camden Mole, I think is how I heard them say it on the the PA system. He threw the ball really well for Yorkville. 5 innings pitched, just 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 6 Ks. And he actually came into the game, I believe, in the second inning because their starter got hit around a bit. So he came in and stopped the bleeding, and it eventually led to them winning the game. So he played a huge role for them. But now for Sycamore a little bit, Davis Colley, I mean, he just always stands out. Just physically looking at the kid, he's super strong. And I'm a big fan of the left-handed swing. I mean, he's a guy that just gets his A swing off a lot. And he's got some polish and feel to hit as well with big strength. I think he's a perfect, like, middle-of-the-order profile, especially at Bradley. Should have a chance to impact that lineup early. But he also made some really impressive plays at first base with, like, multiple short hops and, like, saving outs. Like, that's something that I feel gets overlooked a lot, having a good first baseman. And, I mean, he saved at least 2 to 3 outs just from scooping a ball that would have easily gone to the fence and be an automatic double. I probably saved a run one of the times at least too, but really impressive look at him, both sides of the ball. And then Jackson McDonald, a sophomore outfielder for Sycamore, who's also a really good arm, but I saw him with the bat. I thought it was really polished, especially for the age. It's a smooth left-handed swing. It's got some length through the zone, and he showed the ability to cover the entire plate, took a ball in the outer half, shot it the other way for a double, and then turned on an inside or a middle-in fastball to his pull side. So can cover the plate, kind of take it where it's pitched. Just a really interesting look, and I know we need to get out and see him on the mound as well. But yeah, that's what I got from that one.
Yeah, and to cap off the night, I was over at the Corn Crib here at Normal to see Normal Community versus Bartlett. It was a good pitching matchup with Gavin Swartz and Brandon Pels on the mound. It was probably the best that I had seen Gavin Swartz pitch. Just a lot of strikes, and he sat 87 to 90, and then he showed a breaking ball that he was throwing for strikes as well. So really good to see that out of Swartz. And then Gavin Michaels, I don't think the stat line will really impress, but he's just kind of a guy that we have talked about that can impact the game in so many ways. Like, he had a single, it should have been a single really down the line to left field. The left fielder kind of had to go to his right a little bit. But Gavin's speed, he got out of the box quick. He was hustling down the line. Like, he knew, I'm going 2 on this. Got a double, and it's just the way, like, impacting the game in that way is just so good to see. Like, that's just the type of player that we've seen out of him. He hustles. He just does a lot of things right. So that was good to see from Gavin Michaels there. And then Normal's infield, to me, is really impressive. And I still think they're one of probably the better ones in the state. You had Max Heineman catching. Drew Stevens over at first, who he looked like an athlete playing first base, just a kid that can kind of do it all. And then at second, they had Gavin Michaels. At short, they had Kyle Beatty. And then at third, they had Kyle's younger brother, Lucas, who's a 2027 for them. And they all can just really play and pick it on the infield. Like, it's a strong infield they've got there. So that was really impressive to me. And then for Bartlett, Brendan Pels, he competed on the mound. Like, he was kind of their guy. Like, the score doesn't look like it was a close game, but I felt like he kind of kept them in the game as much as he could, really. But he worked in the mid-80s, and he was throwing his breaking ball often with confidence. He was throwing it in like 0-0 counts, 1-0 counts. Like, he was really confident to work with that, and he kind of worked backwards throughout the game with his breaking ball and kind of kept Normal's lineup off balance. But he works quick in the game, and like, he held runners really well, I thought. So it was a good outing there for Pels, uncommitted 2026 there. But that's really all I had from that game. Normal won 7-1, but they kind of capitalized on some walks and stuff to ultimately win them that game. But I've got one more nugget, but I'm going to have him saved for my prospect of the week here. But I guess that's where we can kind of transition to now is – or sorry, Pete, you were talking about Saturday.
Dave.
Go ahead. Sorry
now.
About that. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, so Saturday I saw number 4 Libertyville take on Maine South. Now, it was a kind of a wild goose chase. Like, I went over to Maine South. The game got pushed back to 1, so they were working on the field. And then the game got pushed to Libertyville, so I was kind of driving all around. But it was totally worth it. Got to look at Brady Bunick, which I'll touch on him in a second. But Libertyville held on to win 5-4. Maine South started making kind of a comeback in the last 2 innings. But Libertyville held on. Won that one 5-4, like I said. But yeah, Brady Bunick got the start for Libertyville. I mean, one of the top 2027s in the country. He was 91 to 93 with all sorts of ease and levers and just natural run and life through the zone. And he was up to 94 and even was up to 93 still in the 3rd inning. And what really stood out to me with the fastball was that he was cruising like 91. And he could command it. Not control, command it to the glove side, like repeatedly, let it run back and hit the corner. He was keeping it low. It was repeatedly, even with a right-handed hitter in the box and a left-handed hitter. So he was going out to righties, outer half to righties and inside on lefties. So it didn't matter. He didn't mind going into lefties. But he was cruising like 91-ish, and he would reach back for 94. So, like, he had 94 in the tank the whole time, but he didn't need it. You know what I mean? So, like, that was super mature of him to do. And then ripped off a really, really good slider at 78 to 80 miles an hour with wipeout action. I mean, it's a real pitch. And he was flashing a really good splitter in warm-ups. And he punched out 10 in 5.1 innings, threw the ball really well for them. But moving over to the defensive side here, Cole Lockwood, Valpo commit, senior, started at shortstop for him. He's kind of a spark plug that I came away liking a lot. I mean, it's a leaner, like, trim frame that I think will have a chance to get a little more physical as he gets older. But I really like the glove. Super athletic. Handles the glove really well at shortstop with some range. Covers a ton of ground. And then I like the left-handed swing, too. Really quick out of the box. I thought it was like a good, like, slap, like, line drive type hitter. That's pretty scrappy. And then Ryan Wilberding, I mean, he's another sophomore that we really like, ranked number 16 in the state right now. But he was playing left field. He can also catch it for him. But, I mean, they got Quinn Shambo, so he'll have to kind of wait his turn there. But we really, really like the bat. Love the look. Super confident. Like, he looks like a hitter. He wants to hit. Knows the zone really well. Does not expand it. And when it's in the zone, he gets a great swing off. Just took multiple good at bats on the day. He's one of the top bats in the state for sure, especially in that class. And then Josh Holst, I mean, he's an arm, but he swung it really well. Like, he'd have a chance to hit at the collegiate level if he wasn't that high level of an arm. I think, like, the first base, left profile, he wouldn't have any issue playing at like a D3, D2 maybe, with the ease and the strength and the swing. But he was 2 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs. But Quinn Shambo, I mean, handled the absolute heck out of Brady Bunick, like, with ease, like, stealing strikes, trying to work the bottom, like, get under the ball, pull it up. I mean, super easy. He's premium glove and premium catch and throw as well. Like, easy arm strength with a ton of carry in life. It's how it should look. You know what I mean? Those catchers that are legit like that, they really stand out. And, I mean, man, he, like I said, handled the heck out of Bunick. And I just love the actions. And I like his at-bats as well. I mean, he walked twice. So I thought his swing decisions were really good. You know, he wasn't trying to expand it too much. They weren't really throwing him too much. And a lot of kids would maybe try and get excited and try and force something to happen, right? But he was taking his walks. And when it was in the zone, he got a couple of good swings off, smoked a single up the middle. It was just a really all-around impressive day for him. But going over to Maine South, Connor Griffin started on the mound for them, and I'm going to make him my prospect of the week. So I'll kind of skim over him for now. But Constantine Coins, going to my alma mater, Lewis. He's a senior, QB1, I believe, for Maine South. So really good two-sport athlete. I've long heard that he's a good football player, but he was taking some great at-bats on the day, like really competitive against Bunick, like premium velocity, was not scared, had a single, also got hit by a pitch, but, I mean, he can really go get it in the outfield, too. I think he's a nice prospect for Lewis. And then Peter Cortinos, he's a catcher. He was starting behind the plate for them. He's just a vocal leader, can really handle the glove as well. And he can also throw it. Just catching, that's a premium position, right? So anytime you see a good one, you got to call it out. But Alex Vale is another sophomore. There was a ton of sophomores that stood out this game. But he's a sophomore from Maine South, started at shortstop. And he's just a premium glove that we got to follow moving forward. I mean, he has supernatural athletic actions with a ton of easy range. Like, he made a diving stop up the middle look easy. And he's not the biggest kid, so, like, he can cover a ton of ground. Just with his reads and his angles to the baseball, like, he doesn't have the longest strides in the world. So, premium glove there. Definitely someone we need to follow. And then Alex Zabratansky, a senior. He came out of the pen for Maine South. He was 84 to 87 with some intent. Just a good bullpen arm with, like, a shorter bullet slider. But, no, it was a good game. Like I said, definitely worth the circus trying to get to it. But, yeah.
Well, that rounds out the scores and highlights and stuff from last week, but let's kind of take it over to prospect of the week to round this out. And Tyler, if you want, I'll let you go first so Pete can kind of get a break here quick.
Yeah, kind of saved this guy from earlier, but from St. Lawrence, for me, it's going to be Mickey Lotus, a 2026 who's uncommitted. Coach's son, but he plays that way in the best, and I mean that in the best way possible. Just a really fundamentally sound baseball player. Just kind of does everything right on the field. He was batting in the 9 spot for him, but man, I really loved every single at-bat that kid took. His first AB hits a single into left, and Mickey's fast. Like, he ran a 6.79 for us this past winter at the All-State event we ran at the Max, and man, he's busting his tail out of the box and tries to stretch it into a double. Left fielder, credit to him, made a great throw. They got him out probably by a hair, but just love the way he plays the game. Just hair on fire. Works really quality at bats at the plate as well. So big fan of Mickey. That was my first time ever seeing him play, but just think he's an all-around talented baseball player, and he's going to be a nice steady force for the Vikings to have all year.
Yeah, and then my prospect of the week is going to be right-handed pitcher Beckett Weber out of Normal Community. He threw in that game that I was at, and threw 2 innings in relief, struck out 3, walked 2. I like the way that he moves. Pretty easy, not a ton of effort to it. Kind of a shorter arm action. Worked in the low 80s throughout his 2 innings of work. 11.5 shape on the breaker, and then I really liked his changeup too. He didn't use it a ton, but when he did, it had like a ton of fade, kind of depth to it. So good stuff there from uncommitted 2026 back at Weber.
I can hop in with my guy really quick. Connor Griffin, like I mentioned, uncommitted junior from Maine South, 6'4", around 200 pounds. I'm trying to think of the exact. I think it was like 195 is what he was listed as, but he was 80, 84. Threw the ball really well for them against a tough Libertyville squad. Threw a ton of strikes. Was getting some swing and miss on the fastball in the zone, and it kind of had like a tilt. Like he was a tall fall, kind of tilt topple kind of mover, like really easy, and not a ton of effort to it. But it would kind of come from a higher release, and at the bottom of the zone, it would get some tilt. But at the top, it would kind of play with a little more finish. But he was getting swing and miss on it. And the fastball had some bigger, like, over-the-top break with depth in the low 70s. So, uncommitted arm, just the ease and, like, the repeatability for him to throw strikes at that size stood out. Man, there's definitely more in the tank with just how easy it was. He's an arm to get on for sure.
All right, and I'll finish this up here with player of the week, prospect of the week, outfielder Cole Latimer, DeKalb 2026, uncommitted. Number of different reasons why I chose him. One being the fact that DeKalb is 10-0. Give him a little shout out. Cole Latimer definitely playing a role on that, but he's ranked number 62 in the state right now. 6'3", 187 pounds, and it's a long levered, loose mover, with all kinds of like muscle still to come and just strength and physicality in general that's going to come. And he's the type of guy that could probably add 15 pounds, and it may be hard to tell like on his frame, just the way he would carry it. But he was at our preseason All-State this winter, ran a 7.2 360, was 92 from the outfield, and just loved the way he kind of roamed around. Long strided, had some actions, a loose arm that like the ball was exploding out of the hand. And then kind of the same type of mover like in the box. He's a right-handed hitter, had an exit velocity of 104 is what he peaked at, and he launched his furthest baddest ball at 358. But you watch the swing and it's loose and he's got leverage and he was on the barrel a lot and it's gap to gap and the path works. And I really like the upside to his entire game. I definitely think he's one to watch out there at DeKalb.
QB1 as well for DeKalb.
There you go.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up episode 22 of the Bullpen. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and then follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.